Hi, and welcome to the I Ramble podcast. We're an entrepreneur-centric podcast, guiding you with some tried and true strategies from people that have taken their ideas from mental creation to reality. Now they're trying to make it easier for you to succeed in your endeavors. So sit back and listen to these entrepreneurs, builders, and designers share the step-by-step formulation of their business. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for new episodes. Enjoy!
All right, what the business is, and you already know that's not rhetorical, that's a real question. And the business is today profit building, how to make your business profitable. After you formalized it, you worked hard, you got all this sweat equity into it, you spent so many monies that you probably didn't have. You just had a dream and a vision, but you're just trying to bring it to fruition. So what we do at I Ramble, we're trying to help you get it there, make it sustainable, make it profitable, so you can make it a legacy situation. So I reached out to this lady after I saw her bio because I felt like she was just really able to do those things for us and for you. So I'm not going to do her any disservice. I'm going to let her introduce herself. How you doing today?
I am well and blessed and absolutely pleased to be here.
Thank you so much. What's your name?
I am Amy Rose Herrick, and I am a profit building specialist. How's that for a title?
Yes, that's a fantastic title for an entrepreneur to hear. That's like music to their ears. And like I said, that's what we do at Entrepreneur. We're trying to get you from start to, we don't want to say finish, but we're trying to get you just sustainable and continuous. So what's your background in business and building and things of that nature, Ms. Amy?
Well, I've been an entrepreneur for over 30 years, so I've worked in the corporate world, and then I went out on my own. I have lived on commissions only. I have been, we'll call it an enigma in my field in the area of finances. Generally, it was male-dominated, and I was one of the few little females that would ever be in the room who was not an assistant or a secretary. And moving on from that, I have bought and sold businesses. I have closed businesses. I have advised. I've got a large wealth of information to help business owners integrate building profits up in the business, getting the business to be sellable every day of the year. And then I also can incorporate your personal financials, such as titling of assets and estate planning, buy-sell agreements, those things that would help pass wealth to the future generations. And that is something that is quite different. And my clients are all different, and that keeps it very interesting. But I love sharing knowledge because, once you have knowledge, it's something that whether you use it today or 6 months from now, or you pull it back out a few years later, just short of death and a brain injury, nobody can take your knowledge away. And people really underestimate the value of that knowledge, I feel.
And like I said, I knew I'll be pleasantly pleased with the information you were going to give us and share with us. And I want to harken back when you said closed business. Was it you closed your personal business through any kind of hardships, or you guided the business through having to close? What did you mean by that part?
Well, I have seen both extremes. Let me say that one of my businesses, because of life crises, things happened within 24 hours. I was on a plane and decided I'm selling my business, and I had the contract in my hand within 6 days in the first installment. So I've been that high. But then the low point was we had a second generation family business with my husband. Things changed. And when they changed rather rapidly, and looking at it, he made a decision in 45 minutes to close the business. And it was a 27-year-old business. We had won a Small Business of the Year award 2 years before, but the business climate in that industry changed so quickly, so fast, that was the answer. And so I really can relate with, business as usual, growth, selling, closure, all of those things. And that's part of that 30 years. You can't have that kind of an experience without experiencing 30 years of the highs and lows of being a small business or an entrepreneur.
And that's good stuff too as well. And that's kind of what happened with COVID to a lot of businesses, that they had to really figure it out in such a quick time and quick manner. But back to the second generation part of your answer, I always heard that by the third generation of a business being passed down, they tend to fail or suffer hardship. Do you have any kind of guidance in terms of that, or sustaining a business? Because the original passion was from the owner and creator, but then as it passed on, I'm not sure if the passion subsides or what have you. What do you find to be the cause?
Well, I'm going to tell you that my observation, and I look at a lot of statistics, folks. If you look at the statistics of a business life, like people have a lifespan, and you plant your garden, and plants have a lifespan, your family dog. I believe things have lifespans, and I think it is highly unusual when you look at the statistics for a business to survive more than 20 years, because the dynamics of the products you are selling, even if you're innovative, the community that you may be located in, the buying habits, technology, whatever the case may be, I think in many cases it has to do with the life cycle of that particular business. And if I throw out a couple of names, just for examples, did you ever hear of or go to a Blockbuster video store?
My sister worked at a Blockbuster store, so I'm quite familiar.
When it was very successful, it was very successful. But when the world changed, I think there might still be one left, but it didn't exist anymore. You look at other things that we can go back in history. It depends on how old you were. Depends on your listening audience. But, I had a manual typewriter. I had an IBM Selectric typewriter with the ball. Do you see typewriters in anybody's offices much anymore?
Not at all.
No. So things change. There were platforms, a lot of people do Zoom meetings now. Well, I used join.me before it was, it was innovative at the time. Well, it was surpassed with a new product. So I feel that many times the businesses have to do with their life cycle, and it can be very different. Now, there are some companies that may exceed that. Let me throw one out. Let's talk about plumbing. People need plumbing, and I don't care if it was 20 years ago, 30 years ago, or 10 years from now, we're going to need plumbing. So something like that is an evergreen type of a service. They may still have growth issues with, help, or whether they're advertising, if they have enough business, those type of things. But many times I think it is the life cycle. And I think it's important at times for people to think about their business as an asset. People will invest in stock market, or they'll invest in mutual funds, or whatever the case is. And you have been told to buy low and sell high. Have you ever heard that before?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, with our businesses, I need you to take the emotion out. When you have a business, and in my mind, they have a business life cycle, if you started out low and you now have reached a point where the business has a substantial valuation, or you can sell it and walk away from the table with money in your hand and then go in another direction and do something else, I think people will hang on to that business too long when it's near the peak or at the peak. And after that, the only place that there is to go in many cases is to decline. And then it becomes unsellable.
Okay, so there's two things with that, right? So they need to detach their passion from creating it in the first place. And then don't the rinse and repeat become a factor now with the new buyer in terms of trying to make it sustainable?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And when I talk about how many business owners do you know that have closed or sold their business and walked away from the closing table with money. Folks, you are making money in the business, and that is for now, but you could make money in a job. At the same time, why are you doing all of this if you're not doing it so that you can enrich yourself?
It's a frame of mind. You're saying you're trying to promote and create a frame of mind.
A frame of mind.
When you're starting the business, that I'm not going to do this forever. I'm going to do this to get it to a sustainable point, a sellable point, a marketable point, and then pass it on to someone else who can make it more probably modern or what have you.
Or write it down the decline. Okay. Because it goes back to, I want you to look around at all the people you know who have started businesses. And you and I have not talked about this before our conversation. How many people can you think of right off the bat that started businesses, that sold those businesses and walked away with money in their pocket?
Not many, Amy.
How many have you thought of that closed the business or walked away and they either were in debt or the business failed?
More so.
Yeah. So we need to change some of that thinking of when you're building your business. I already talked to people about when you're building it, I want you to have an exit plan, which sounds crazy to some people. But let's say that you and we're partners and we're in a business and we have put $100,000 each in because it's just a number. And we have $200,000 invested. We got our time and we have agreed that if we build this valuation up and this company is worth $800,000, pick a number, that we are going to sell the business and let it go. And we are going to take our profit and we are going to do something else. And that's one type of an exit plan. But many times people go into business and you don't have an expectation of what that business is going to produce for you. So how do you know when it has fulfilled its purpose? Or when do you know that really it's not fulfilling your purpose and you're merely an underpaid or a poorly paid volunteer? And you can go do that somewhere else with a whole lot less headaches.
Okay, so you have a tried and true. So divorce your feelings from the business itself, right? Just build it to a point where you know whatever you invested in it to get it to a end point. Once you get there, go ahead and do that and start with your next venture, retire, or whatever you choose to do in terms of a transition. So you have a whole market plan with building it, creating it, having an exit plan, and moving forward. Because I think what you said is so correct. A lot of businesses fail because we won't divorce ourselves from the passion of creating the said business.
Oh, and I think, and I'm an entrepreneur, and I know entrepreneurs. They are an entirely different mindset than a W-2 employee, and there is nothing wrong with either category. We're just wired differently. Entrepreneurs are creative people. I can say they can get bored easily, or they get tired of something. And every entrepreneur I've ever known is always looking, and I call it shiny penny or squirrel. Squirrel, I see something else over here that I think I'd like to do, or they see another opportunity. You see another opportunity. We all do. But if you are holding on so tight to what you're doing right now and you can't release it, there is no way that you can embrace a different or maybe a better opportunity. And where you started could be a learning experience, but you may discover that it doesn't provide for you what you need. It's done okay up to now, but there are other opportunities. But hold on too tight to anything, and your hands, your heart, your mind is not open to receiving anything else.
What about franchising then at that point, Amy? If I create whatever it is, and I've built that to a point where it's kind of systematic, and can I go open another one somewhere else, and then still have that passion and maintain that passion and love, or is it still mainly focused on build it to a sellable point.
Potentially, but look again, how many new franchises and how many successful things do you see along those lines? I mean, on a consistent basis.
I want to ask you these questions because I just know your answers are going to be fantastic. So,
how many do you see? And the other thing is, if you really want the franchise, instead of the sweat equity, perhaps your best bet is to go and buy an established franchise that is already staffed, working. The places are, the support is there. Maybe you would be well served as being a franchise owner, but the sweat and everything that it took to scale up to be franchises, and looking back on what that takes, that is a huge endeavor, and you've got to have a phenomenal team around you, because you may be the visionary, but that does not mean that you are the best builder, marketer, bookkeeper, hirer, all of those things. And also, are you able to transmit the knowledge to replicate all of those processes and manuals? And this is how you do it in sourcing. You may be a creator, but you may not have the skills to do that other.
I could equate to that 100%. One of my businesses that when I helped to formalize, I would not stop tinkering, but we hired a general manager, we hired a person to do the business account, this, that, and the third. But it's the rule of thumb, if you empower people who are great in what they do and allow them to do what they do to make the business sustainable. So I can get what you're saying, where you're causing your business to fail somewhat yourself by not being able to do those things. So how do you help with a business bottom line strategy in formalizing? What do you think is some tried and true philosophy?
Well, one of the things that I did, because I see some of the same topics come up over and over again, is I have a little over 36 short courses. And when I say short, if I can teach you a concept, or I can give you an evergreen formula, and here's how you do this in as little as 15 to 45 minutes, you've got time for that. But if it said you're going to have to sit down for 8 or 10 hours, business owners don't have time. Their staff doesn't have time. So with a business, often you don't build up the bottom line all in one area. And I do not believe that it is only sales that increases your bottom line. It has to do with how much of your profit do you retain versus how much do you give away. And I'm going to give you just a couple of quick examples. When you are looking at your expenses for whatever they are, this is an easy one. I'll call this low-hanging fruit. Many of you are used to paying for your insurances, whatever they are, your building insurance, your car insurance, any of those kind of things. If you've got life insurance, you're doing it on a monthly basis because you think it's better and easier to do. Well, if you would switch your methodology, and we use what's called an irregular expense account to pay that monthly, you can reduce the cost of the premiums between 3 and 8%. That doesn't always sound like a lot. But if you are spending, $10,000 a year, that is anywhere from $300 to $800 less on that one item for the exact same coverage. And I use what I call the multiplier of 10. Most things you will do for a long time. If I do that for 10 years, that's anywhere from $3,000 to $8,000 more on my bottom line for the exact same amount of insurance. That's just one. If we work and we do a variety of things in many different areas, and every one of them we're picking up a couple of percentage points and a couple of here, it adds up dramatically to your bottom line. And what people don't always realize is the more profitable a business is, then the higher the multiple will be for the valuation when you sell your business. So this fallacy of, well, I'm doing okay because, I'm breaking even or I'm barely making a profit. No, that's not going to increase the valuation of your business. Profits are what increase your valuations.
Okay, which is good stuff because that's what the end goal is. You create something out of love and your passion and your drive and all of these things, but you're in it to be profitable at the end of the day, right? So,
Exactly. And can I give you one more little example? Okay, let's pretend that you have a service. I don't care what your service is, but you've decided to price it at $150 because you called around and looked around and that's what other people are charging for it. So you picked $150. Now, when I work through and you've got an employee who's providing this, most people know about layer one, which is your base salary and FICA taxes and a few things like that. And then we've got maybe if you have any benefits. Well, then layer two, I'm going to go through and say, does this employee have to have a computer? Do we have to replace it every 3 years? Because that's a piece of overhead. What supplies do they need? And then the third level, what if this employee to do this occupies 10% of your location? Well, I'm going to say 10%, the cost also goes on that employee. So there was one a while back where they offered something new. They were selling it. They were making more gross, but their net was less, and they couldn't understand it. So we really dug through it, figured out that it cost them $198 to provide the service. So every time they sold it, they lost almost $50. And it did not mean that the pricing that they had chosen was right for their company. And they don't know if the guy down the street is making any money off of it or not. Right? So there are so many different areas that you target. But once you learn like how to really accurately price out what that employee costs you, what do they cost you over the course of a year? Do they produce more than that? If they don't produce more than that for you, they're costing you money. They're costing you profit. And all different areas, your advertising. Do you have a return on investment on advertising? What about your donations? So think about, you could have multiple areas and you gain ground in every one of them. You've learned how to do it so that you can replicate this, whether it's in this business or a different business, and continually building up your skill set to build your bottom line and also be able to apply it in other situations. So it's a different mindset from being conscious, and you don't have to do it all, because if you have employees or you've got VAs and contractors, they can be taught to also work towards building your bottom line. But we have to teach them to do that.
That's good stuff. I recently was speaking to somebody that was trying to sell me their service, and I was trying to calculate what would be my return on the investment of their service, and they didn't have an answer for it. So that was somewhat of a red flag, because they were telling me good things. It's just, I just didn't know how to quantify what I was spending on. It sounds good in your mentioning and, your display and how you outline it and things like that. But I was like, okay, so I spend this money with you to advertise, to market, or what have you. But how do I even see any return on my investment? So I'm glad that, you touched on that so much, because as a small business, which is who we're trying to foster and help grow, they need to be able to target their expenditures to make sure they maximize their return on their investment.
Oh, absolutely. And this is an old term. Some of you will know it, some of you won't. It's called TOMA, Top of Mind Awareness. And we're going to play a quick little game here. I'm going to ask you to name for me 3 models of automobiles. What are 3? Real quick, the first ones that come to your mind.
Toyota, Honda, Nissan.
What kind of car do you have in your driveway? Ford. So having top of mind awareness does not always mean that the consumer is buying your product. And many times individuals will be trying to be known, or they want their name known, but what you really want is you want sales. And with marketing programs, there's a course that I've got on that, how to calculate your ROI. So before you ever do it, you know whether you're going to have an ROI. And if you're not, you let it go. So, just pulling something out of the air. Let's say that I decide to do this little marketing program and I back into it and I say, all right, I have to sell at least 108 units of X to break even. I am not going to make a profit until 109 and my profit is $50. Is this viable? I work it backwards. Well, I got to sell 5 of these an hour, for 5 days. So No, this is not going to happen. Our sales don't support it. Okay, then we're not going to spend money on this, are we?
No.
But we business owners, and depending upon where you came from, you don't always have all this knowledge, and you don't get this in a business plan. Working with SBDC, SCORE, a lot of the different places can give you phenomenal information, but you have to continually grow your knowledge base as a business owner, and you've got to align yourself with individuals who are further down the journey than you are to avoid taking the longest path possible to profitability.
That's what 100% about it, Amy. It's trying to get you the learning curve lesson from other entrepreneurs that went the long route to get to success. And I've always heard from a lot of successful entrepreneurs, what they did was they found where they were lacking in, whether it was the bookkeeping, accounting, and all of those things, and empowered someone to maintain that and focus on what their strong suit was.
Oh, yeah. And some of you are listening to this and saying, oh, I'd love to have somebody. I have to do it all myself. I can't afford to have somebody. And I'm going to challenge you on that. And I'm going to challenge you on what are you investing on within your business? Are you investing your time, your resources? For those of you who are listening and, in the show notes, we'll have my contact information. It's been very great. Keanu has about that.
We're going to spell that out too.
Yeah. Don't tell me you cannot afford a VA. I have fabulous VAs, and working with those, they happen to be abroad. They are specialists in their field. They are credentialed. They are fabulous. Now, don't tell me you can't afford it, because you can have fabulous VAs that are abroad from $5 to $8 an hour. You need someone who is CPA level to do your bookkeeping, who's dedicated to you. You're talking about maybe 7 to 10. So there is no reason you cannot have an expert team to concentrate on building your business and handling things for you. But they don't all have to be employees. Some things we need employees for, but you don't need employees for everything. And sometimes a VA is going to be your best bet. And they're dedicated to you.
Conversation. Why did you reach out to me? And this is why, Amy. This is why.
Yeah.
Because it is valuable information that you're able to impart on the new entrepreneurs and even existing business owners who aren't implementing these tried and true tactics, not tactics, but strategies to make their business successful. And they, a lot of times people think things are so costly or grandiose, but because they haven't done any kind of research to really do the due diligence of the cost analysis, then they'll end up not succeeding because they just thought it was too much out of their reach. But someone like you kind of bring a package to the table in terms of how to help you be more successful in a cost-effective manner with direct marketing and direct strategies of tried and true. So you said bartering in this new term. How does that go?
Say the word again.
Bartering.
Oh, bartering? Oh, there are bartering networks that are available too. That there are some excellent ones. You need to do a little bit of homework. Some of them are regional. Some of them are nationwide. With a bartering network, you have to pay attention because bartering transactions have a trading fee or a load on them. So let me give you an example. Let's pretend that I bartered $1,000 goods or services, and I might have a 10% trading fee. So, I've already knocked down what my actual amount is to, $900. Can I still make a profit on it at that point? So bartering networks can open you up because these are additional business owners to fields that you maybe have not been able to grow your business in. And then you can limit how much you barter and then use that to grow your business and also get you into other areas with cash paying clients. So bartering is an item that you can use. Bartering is considered income, just like sales that you would make any other way. And then you have your trading fees that would be an expense. And that can be a way for individuals sometimes. Now, when I have this money in my bartering account, most of them are pegged, $1 barter equals $1 US, just to keep it simple. Then I could go out and I can take that money, and let's say I took my $1,000 that I have in my account and I go spend it for a $500 worth of office supplies, and I spend it for $500 worth of legal help. So bartering allows you to not use cash in order to get goods and services, but you do have to pay your trading fees in cash.
Okay, so let's talk about renting as opposed to owning the location. What is the benefit of that to a new entrepreneur or business owner? What would you suggest that way?
Oh, I get this all the time. I have one. Okay, tell me if this is any conversation you ever heard. Oh, you need to buy because you're just throwing your money away when you're renting. Have you ever heard that one, Okay, then the other side of it saying, I'm not buying. It'll cost me more money to buy. So, and I don't know if I'm really going to need it that long. I might only need it 3 to 5 years. So I think renting is better. Okay, these are two very different conversations. I have a real easy rule of thumb. I don't care if you are looking at buying your house or buying a business building or renting. I use the 1% rule. I want you guys to listen real close to this. If I have a property, and I like round numbers, you figured that out. Let's pretend the property is $400,000. I don't care if it's a house. I don't care if it's a business building. If I can rent a similar property for less than 1% of the value, which would be $4,000 a month, I would not even entertain the option of owning that property. And the reason for that, if I am owner, I'm going to have to pay taxes, insurance, probably a payment. I already know it's going to cost me 3 times the amount of the building because of all the interest. And everything that breaks, I'm on the hook for. I tell people you need to plan on.
That was my next question for you, because I was at a store and I heard the store owner talking to one of the employees about an equipment that they were negligible in breaking, and they were like, "Well, you got to be more mindful because now you broke that. Now I got to spend this money to." So you're saying, well, or one of your principles that you teach is that replacement must be factored somehow in your business structure.
Exactly. And see, what I see kills a lot of properties is that the normal repairs and maintenance. You need to spend 3 to 5% of the value of the property regularly. So on that $400,000 building, I got another $12,000 to $20,000 a year just to maintain it. I didn't say upgrade it. I said maintain it. Now, as a renter, if I could rent a similar property for pick a number, $3,500 a month. Okay, I have an additional $500 a month I can do something else with, and I have none of the responsibilities for maintenance, upkeep, and repair. So that is a real easy rule of thumb that I use, and I will tell you, I have been a homeowner. When I moved here to the Caribbean 11 years ago, I cannot make the numbers work. I'm not a property owner here because the high cost of insurance and properties doesn't make it attractive me to be an owner. Okay. I have been an owner in the past,
but it's
not attractive.
What you do, Amy, is you rationalize this expenditures, if that's the correct terminology. But so it's not necessarily keeping up with the Joneses. You just make it make sense.
Yeah, and take the emotion out of it. This is a business transaction. And do you know how you know it's a business transaction? Whenever they pull papers out in front of you and expect you to sign it, trust me, that is a business transaction. That's what that is.
I'm familiar.
You go to the doctor's office and they whip a piece of paper out. Don't kid yourself. This is a business transaction.
I tell people that all the time. Let's just conduct proper business. Let's just conduct proper business. I get it. We're conducting business. Nothing wrong with it. Even if we're bartering, let's just conduct proper bartering.
Yes.
Your 3 goats, my 1 cow, or sheep, or however it go. Let's just conduct proper business that we both can respect and be happy with.
That's right. Absolutely. Is this helping you a little bit?
It's helping me tremendously, and I know it's going to help all the new entrepreneurs expeditiously to build and grow what they're doing. And like I said, when I reached out to you, I just knew you just had a fountain of information and tried and true strategies and knowledge that you'd be able to impart. And so let's talk a bit of marketing then. So what's the importance of marketing, networking, and those things?
Well, I think one of the things about marketing and networking are really 2 very different things. Let me hit the networking first. When you go to networking, if your networking does not have your target audience there, then this is a social event because you're spending your time. But if you are going for networking, what do you walk away with? I was at a networking event earlier today in a group that I haven't spent a lot of time with, but I went in with a goal. My goal was to check this out to see if there were opportunities there. My primary goal was to increase podcast appearances. And so I knew there were going to be some podcasters there. And then I was also looking for individuals who were business owners who needed VAs. Those were my 2 objectives. I came away with people I'm going to contact, so it was worth my time. But if I went into a group and there was absolutely nobody there in my target audience, it was a waste of my time. So when you're doing networking, be sure what you're going for. Figure out what you're going for. And if it doesn't meet your expectations, bow out early, do something else. Don't go. And then on your marketing, I would say you want to have somebody in your marketing. We got some feedback here. There we go. On your marketing, what I was going to say is understand that if you are not good at this and you don't know how to do it, that is a perfect place for you to plug in somebody who is wired towards marketing. And the reality is right now, marketing is very heavily tied to social media. And whether it is your Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube channel, Pinterest, Alignable, there's so many of it. If that is not your forte, and all those things take time, then you need to have a person who that is what they live, eat, and breathe, and they do for you.
The VA.
So again, you don't have to do it all as a business owner, and you cannot. So choose what you're going to do well, and you need to delegate the rest to quality, talented people who can take you to the next level because it's what they do.
So, okay.
I'm not a dentist. I don't do my own dental work. I don't want to study to do my own dental work. I don't want to take all the stuff. I go to the dentist. He already knows how.
You do your part. You brush your teeth and try to keep up, but for the heavy stuff, you go to the dentist.
Exactly. That's not what I do. And I don't want to take the training and I don't want to do the classes. And some of you struggle because you need to know enough about it, but it doesn't mean that you have to be the expert in it, like bookkeeping, like marketing, like posting, like,
Those are fantastic that you even touch on those topics, but please elaborate, because a lot of times I know some business owners, and that's one of the number one things that they'll stress to me. They're like, man, I'm not the best accountant. I'm not really into numbers, the bookkeeping side of it, but you can still empower someone to do that for you and take that off of your plate?
You can empower somebody to handle all of the entries, and you can have key performance indicators. There's other things you can do that, okay, all right, Betty Joe, every Monday by 11 a.m. on my desk, I want a report that shows what our income was last week, what our expenses was, what is our profitability for the week, for my month to date, year to date, whatever it is, so that I have a pulse on my business. That's what I want.
Nice word.
And so with some of those things, you have to set up the systems. But by empowering someone and giving them the tasks so it is very clear. And I'm also going to back up on Betty Joe. If I tell Betty Joe I need it on my desk by 11 o'clock on Monday, that does not mean that Betty Joe walks by at 11:15 and says, oh, I haven't even started. I've got other things. I haven't started that yet. I'll have it to you sometime.
What do you do at that point? Is it once or twice, or what do you do then?
You set the expectation, and there's two things. And I'm not being mean here to Betty Joe.
No, this is business, and that's one of the things. Friendship is friendship, and business is business. We're in the business of trying to be successful. So these are the tools, these are the tried and true strategies, being on time, being prompt, being someone that does what they say they're going to do and be able to do it. So it's be direct. There's nothing wrong with that.
It's to be direct. And there's a couple things we can do with Betty Joe. We can go, Betty Joe, your job is to have this on my desk by 11 a.m. I don't care what anybody else is telling you they need done. You can say, I'll get to that, but this is my top priority. We have done some things with employees that were good employees, but they had a little issues. Sometimes people can be incentivized by either money or time off. If it might be a test to say, Betty Joe, if you have this onto my desk by 11 o'clock for 3 months in a row and you don't miss it, I'll give you an extra paid day off. Or Betty Joe, if this is on my desk, I'll give you an extra $5 for every week that it's on my desk by 11, because what does it gain me to have it by 11 o'clock on Monday versus not having it? Okay. And if Betty Joe can't do it, Betty Joe won't do it. She cannot be incentivized. Betty Joe may get another position. Betty Joe may have the job removed from her, or Betty Joe may have to find a new job somewhere else so I can get an employee that does what I need them to do. And we're very clear.
Incentivizing your employees above their natural pay grade that you're giving them, that helps a business to be more successful, and it behooves of you to try to make sure your business is successful. So if it's the difference between $5 and a failing business, like what's the question? So
it is. And you've hit on a good thing there on the incentivize. I believe in share the wealth. Let's pretend that we have a company, whatever the company is, and we say, we start out and we have the meeting and say, all right, guys, here is our sales projection quotas that we need for the next 3 months. This is January, February, and March. If you hit that target in January, then whatever the amount is over this number, you all get 1% of, or 5 or 10, whatever it is. Because I would much rather meet my targets, and then I've met my needs that I need. Anything over that, great, let's share, because what if I give away 10% and split it between my team? Did I get to keep 90? What would you rather have? Would you rather be underneath all of your targets and there's not enough to go around? We've met our targets. We got extra. Let's share the wealth. Because everybody,
10% of something is worth more than 0% of nothing.
That's correct. So you can design things based on your structure in teams or for individuals. And depending upon how you do that, understand that how I treat Betty Joe may not necessarily be the way that I treat Amanda, or Stephen, or Philip.
Is there a reward level, a reward system based on position or based on performance?
It depends upon what you're trying to accomplish. Is performance, okay, what if performance for Stephen over here, Performance is that Stephen brings in a minimum of 6 new clients a month and generates at least $10,000 in sales off of those new 6 clients. Well, he's doing something completely different than Betty Joe. And that's why I say often you look at some of these by the position to determine what would make that position valuable to you and valuable to the employee. And you know what? What if we have Stephen, maybe a really nice guy. We like Stephen. But what if Stephen can't bring in new clients? Can't do it? Then Stephen is not well suited for that position. We are not doing Stephen a favor by keeping him there. And we're not doing us a favor because we're not meeting our needs, aren't we?
So that's when you have this tough conversation with Stephen where it's not working out.
Yeah, but you know what? Stephen, on the other hand, may not be great at sales, but we find out that Stephen is an excellent groundskeeper. He is wonderful for running errands. Stephen is a great guy to put on the phone, but we're just not using Stephen where he is most talented.
You said that a couple of times, and I'm glad you didn't let me interrupt you. You're transitioning somebody from a position that they weren't successful in, but not just firing them outright. I like that you said that a couple of times, and preparing someone to have that tough conversation to say, well, you may not be good in this marketing position. The pay scale may be a little lower over here, but I know you got family, friends, kids, whatever you have to feed and bills to take care of. But I like the fact that you structure all of your advice with not just firing the person, but still offering them a place to transition into something that may make them more successful to the business.
Yeah, if you can.
It
may be that you can't do that, or I really don't want to offend any Stephen, so please, it's just
Let's say Paul. Paul was out here doing the same thing too.
Yeah, Paul, Edwards, okay, whatever, pick a name.
Yeah,
but what if this person really is kind of a jerk and everybody in the office has trouble with them and they want to even avoid walking into the area if they're there? Maybe the company is better off if we let go of certain people because they're poisoning our atmosphere.
They call it a toxic environment.
Yeah. But, I even have toxic environments that I see and hear in all kinds of places. Let me give you one. I walk into an area, wherever the area is, and they have got nothing but CNN blaring with every murder, crashed airplane, war zone, everything that you could put on there that is negative, depressing, upsetting, alarming. And this is what is playing in the background of my business all the time. So when people come in to shop, I have made sure that they're on edge and they're edgy and everything else. They're not relaxed. They're not calm. I have bombarded them with nothing but negativity and fear. So your atmosphere.
For you as the business owner we did an episode about project managing. So as the project manager, which is the business owner and all of those things, those will fall under your purview. Do you now say, look, we need to rotate the streams because yes, we need to stay updated with whatever happened in a negative manner, but yet still we need some positivity streaming on it. So can we just create a stream of a rotation as opposed to a direct, because we don't know if someone is a Fox watcher, a CNN watcher, a DYI watcher, or what have you. Let's just keep a rotation going. Do you kind of micromanage it that way to get a better result?
I would say you have to look at the atmosphere of your business, but I'm going to go back and do you know how many people have cell phones and earbuds in their head all the time? If I don't have content up that they want, I think they can probably find the content, and that's not being nasty, but that's just saying, if you and I really wanted certain content, they don't have to look at my TV. They can get it. There's other ways that they can do it. And I'm going to do one more on that talk about atmosphere. I was in somewhere the other day and I mentioned it to one. I looked around at the staff and there was nothing wrong with the staff, but these were younger staff And of course they put on music that I would say was more along the lines of what they wanted to hear. Some, current music, nothing wrong. I like all kinds of music. I like opera and everything else, but there's different ones. I'm looking around at the audience that is in this particular place, and they're agitated and all. Everybody in that particular audience was between 50 and probably 70 years old.
So in the club music is not probably what you want to be playing.
No, and the song that they were we're all adults here, and I don't want to offend anyone, but this one song they were playing was repeating over and over again, I want to get naked. I want to get naked. Now, how do you think that was working out for those other people there? Who were the paying customers?
It was not going over well, especially with that audience, because they were there to conduct business or doing what they were trying to do. So they probably was feeling sorry for the other people hearing the music that was going on as well.
And is there a place for it? Absolutely, yes. But sometimes, and that goes back to training our staff too, to recognize, I know you go to a grocery store. We all do. You think they haven't pegged what hours people come in? And do you notice if you go at different times what the music is?
Yes,
you look around.
Yeah, you're one.
Why do you think that is?
Because they target market and they get it. They target market, they get it. They strategize and they know what works at 5 p.m. as opposed to what works at 7 or even 8 a.m., which is just good business practice.
Yeah. So your atmosphere, I will call it your business atmosphere, and those kind of things that are going on in the background, that atmosphere is going to affect your employees' state of mind. It's also going to affect your potential customers. And the same can be said for whatever you've got playing on your telephone. Oh my gosh, some of you, can you just put on a calendar at least once a month to go in and re-record a new message? You've been using that same message for 6 years, and I never liked it then, and I sure don't like it any better now.
Great. These are great tips, Amy. And like I said, I'm just so happy that you're giving these entrepreneurs these all great options to be more successful, because we do feature these stores and hear these things that you're speaking of, and we know exactly what you're saying when these things happen, because we're like, oh my God, if I could just get in that little video booth and change the station, or I heard this or that. All of those things are so on point. That's good stuff. Let me ask you 2 things now. I know you can compartmentalize. What are some ways to transform your business? And then why is wasted space? How can you cut down on wasted space? Like, what is in your mind, a definition of a wasted space?
You got a storage room that is clear full of nothing but junk that you cannot sell, you won't get rid of, and you are paying all of the overhead on that wasted space that you're not doing a thing with. Why? Okay. That's wasted space. Okay. That is one that I see
into something workable, because even if you say it's a storage closet, I'm not sure what all we can turn that into. We could probably put a glass door on it and put the office material, office supplies and stuff like that in it. But so I get that part of what you're saying like that.
We all have supplies and things we have to have. But what can that space do that makes money for me and solves a problem for me? And some of you that have said, oh, yeah, well, we have all this space. We're just not using it anymore. People used to have filing cabinets. Well, now what do we have? I'm serious. We got scanned.
No, I know about that. I was just talking to somebody about the card catalog from the library. They were fascinated. There's things have changed. But then depending upon, and if you lease a place, is it possible that you can divide it off and you can do office sharing, or you can do space sharing, or for somebody else to help you pay the rent and do the overhead? Okay.
So what can you do with that space?
Type of thing, is subleasing available? that type of situation? That's a good,
Potentially. But
right.
what can I do with this spot to make me money? It's not making me money. It's costing me money. So what can I do with that wasted space?
Your business is profit building. So that's why I ask you all of these questions, because entrepreneurs need to know how to maximize the profit of the business that they're in and the business that they're building. All right. So ways to prepare for growth. What does that mean, Amy?
Say it one more time. Ways to prepare. Ways to prepare for growth. We've already talked a little bit about the idea in the business is to grow the business, whether it is to exit it, sell it, to do something else. So when you're preparing for growth, you've got an idea of the trajectory that you want to go. Every time you do something, we need to look back and say, is this taking me a step on my journey or to empower me for something later? Let me throw one out because it's something. You are going to be getting a trademark at some point. You're thinking about it. Are you already using this so we can start putting examples and things that we've got so that when you turn in a trademark application, you can show that you have been using this? That would build my step. Anytime that you're working on the growth, we hit different areas. All right, we've decreased this expense, so this is making us more profitable. What else can we do? Everything that you're looking at changing or implementing, how does that further your goal, whether it's right now, midstream, or later, to increase that profitability of the business? And if you look at it and you go, wow, this is going to suck $3,000 a year out of my bottom line, and I'm going to get absolutely nothing for it, we're not doing this. We're going to cut this off, figure out something else, because it's not cost effective and it doesn't meet your objectives.
That's one of your implementations and your advice. I wanted to say a package, or is that in the you said you had a quick 15-minute, 10-minute, program that you can just watch in 15 minutes or so and see just ways to implement these strategies on how to be more profitable and how to be more successful in your business?
Yeah. Well, see, what I've tried to do is break a lot of things down into bite-sized pieces. So like if we talked about the 1% rule on buying or renting. Well, I've got a course on that. But what comes with it also is a workbook and the formula so that you can take any properties and compare, buying versus renting. You can do that and you can replicate it. It's evergreen. So I can teach it to you quickly. Then I get to the tools you can use over and over again to be able to apply that. So, and most of the things that I do, it's breaking them down into bite-sized pieces that you need. Let's get this taken care of. All right, you got that. Now let's take another bite. And so you are constantly being fed good stuff, but you're able to digest it a little bit, and then you're able to build on it and take it to the next level.
And I think one of the underrated things is what you just did is that we're in a bite-sized culture and attention span culture that you need to curtail your business in order to just have the maximum appeal. And that just doesn't mean in stuff that you're selling. It just also means in your business structure, because the attention span goes all the way up the food chain, per se, of a business. So if you can systematically put it into these bite-sized 15-minute chunks for someone to just look, listen, and get it, because that's their field of study. That's one of the things that I really like with what you're doing, Amy. It's like direct marketing, direct focus. You're scaling it down without losing the meat on the bone.
Yeah. And I think it makes a huge difference, because when I use that bite-sized pieces, you may have the X, Y, and Z as your top 3 issues that we could deal with quickly. Because the idea is to empower you quickly with the knowledge that you need. And that doesn't always take 6 hours. You need this. This is blah, blah, blah. Now take it and you can run with it this afternoon. You can move on it. And with business owners, you're busy. You don't have a lot of time. You need the answers. You don't need me to say, well, I'll come back next month in 6 weeks and we'll do. No, business owners need that, or they need to be able to train their staff to do it so they can show up at 11 o'clock on Monday. This is what the boss needs, Hey, here's what he wants. And those kind of things, I found that, if you can do it quickly and you get it and you can run with it, it makes the world easier. And I can stretch anything out to 6 hours. Trust me.
But why? You know what I mean? That's my thing too. That's why I really like what you do. Like, okay, if we're trying to, put on a production, whatever the case may be, okay, cool, we get it. But if we're just really trying to empower our staff, empower our employees, and whoever, there are systematical ways that we can just give them the same information in a nice, neat, tidy package, and that's where you can weed out the ones who are really focused on trying to elevate, as opposed to the one that need more work to elevate, and then you can now, transition them to a different position in the company as opposed to firing them. That's why I was really loving your overall, because it's so condensed that it's perfect, but yet still we can retrain you and still empower you to be better, to be great.
Yeah, and what happens if the boss has just tried to replicate themselves over and over again? That may not be what you need, and you have replicated yourself, but they're not any better able to do certain tasks than you are.
Right.
Not their talent.
Let's talk about, you said embezzlement and theft can happen to you. We'll get into the taxes slightly, as much as you'd like to get into, in terms of the IRA, 401k, what you recommend. Wherever you'd like to start, we can go.
Well, as a business owner, you have a lot of different options. And I think some people wait too long. It depends on your dynamics and your structure. But if you are a solopreneur, or if you mainly have contractors, some of you may be really well served to do an individual 401k. And with that, depending upon your revenue, you could put away, $50,000 a year between employee contributions and deductible employer contributions. So I think sometimes people don't on that. Say it again.
Does matching come into play?
Oh, yeah, because think about if you are a solopreneur or you're an entrepreneur and you've got a lot of contractors and things working underneath you, which is very common now. Your company has the ability to put matching contributions in, and it is a deductible expense for the company. Well, you also happen to be the employee. So you can put your employee money in, and you can put the employer money in. And between the two, about up to $50,000 a year that you could take off of your income. And for those of you that are in lower tax brackets, then I'm going to recommend that you do Roth. But you can also do the Roth 401k. The company contributions will always be taxable later, but your Roth IRA contributions will not be taxable, nor the earnings. So working with the particular dynamics of where you're at in your income, the tax bracket that you're in has a lot to do with what would be the best choice for you and whether you want to incorporate employees. Sometimes we use a simple, but there are specific advantages and disadvantages to different plans. But that's looking at what dynamic to decide which one's best for you. And that can change. I could be in a plan this year that works really well, but because of the growth of my company or the contraction of it, maybe another plan is better suited and I discontinue one and I start a different one. There's a lot of flexibility there.
Okay. And then what, that was one of my opening questions was, I didn't even know where to start with you, Amy, because you have so much great stuff to impart. But I had wrote down, what is the difference between a customer and a client? Is that situational? 100% in terms of the business that you're servicing, where if you have a car dealership or something like that, there may be more customer. But if you're doing a detail service, it may be a client. Like, is that the scope of knowing the difference between a customer and a client? What is that?
No, and I'm really glad. And I don't know when people may be listening to this, but it just so happens in the tail end of 2022, I'm doing some classes for SBDC. They will be free. And one of those classes happens to be, customer versus client. And so I would encourage you to follow me and you'll be able to access some of those things. But when you think about a customer and a client, a customer may be a one-time only event. It's a spur of the moment purchase.
Okay.
And they may have a lifetime customer value of exactly the profit on one sale. Now, a client might be someone who buys from you every week or every month, and their lifespan is usually 5 years. Entirely different customer value versus a client value is based on the number of sales and then also what the profitability is for that particular buying unit. Does that help?
Yes, it does. It helps tremendously. Do you now treat each one differently, where the customer, do you reach back out to them to try to turn them into a client, or do you constantly reach out to the client to make sure they stay a long-term client?
The potential is yes. I'm going to give you an example of a hairdresser, just because. Let's say a hairdresser has a new customer that has booked an appointment to come in. The first time they show up, they're 20 minutes late. Well, their biggest asset is their time. So now if they accept them and they said, I'll work it in, but now they're making everybody behind them late if they don't have a break in the schedule.
Yeah, get the break.
Right. So it's like, we'll bring you back. Hopefully they'll come back. They come back, they do book the next time. And this time they show up 30 minutes late. You need to make a decision here. Is this really just a customer that is using you at their convenience and they really there's not really a loyalty or anything there?
So is that you make when you
say showing up on time? So am I inconveniencing all my clients to try and salvage this sale? Now this client, this customer, I may make, I may make $50 worth of revenue on twice, $100.
So
my customer
make a decision on whether to actually perform that service as opposed to letting them know, well, you might need to reschedule.
You might need to reschedule because it's very important you show up on time because, my clients, they have busy schedules.
Right and true.
Yeah, sometimes things happen, but, you could reach out and say, hey, I'm running 30 minutes late. This and that. Can you still fit it in or not? But just coming in and expecting or another thing, look at back of it, maybe you invoice and this person cannot pay you on time. They have to be notified 3 times. You should have a late fee and everything else on there. That person is not your client. They are costing you money because they don't respect the value of your services. They're not paying their bill on time. They're taking staff time to try to collect it. So do you really want to pursue that relationship that causes you difficulty? Probably not.
That's good stuff. I'm glad you said that because I have an invoice that I need to pay right now. Once we get off the phone, that's good stuff. Also, one of your things that you stressed, you said job description should be so systematic. How important is that?
Well, when we talked about Betty Jo earlier, Betty Jo's job description, if I had specific benchmarks that I needed her to make on a consistent basis, don't you think we better tell Betty Jo what they are?
Okay. All right.
And if it's fluid, it could be fluid things could, and I'm
what I wanted you to elaborate on was the specific, whatever that word is, specific. I may not get it, but specifying what she was there hired to do. And then here's why I'm going to bring it back up again, because I had a thought that just popped in my head. I know someone who they had downsized the company, and then now they took on a lot of other people's job description, but none of the pay. They weren't giving any more pay in their in what was initiated in the first place while they were working there. So how do you kind of recommend that get kind of sorted out? Do the employee go to the boss and say, "Hey, look, I know we had to downsize, but now you've doubled my workload. So how can we make this make sense?"
Yeah, we're going to need to wrap up here pretty soon because I got to go somewhere. But what I would do here, one of the things I recommend is that the employee write up their job description, because there is often a disconnect between what someone thinks they do and what they actually do, and how much time this may take. So in a downsizing, here are my key responsibilities. This is everything else that's been added. When I estimate, I have 54 hours of work here and you're paying me for 40. This is not going to work. Now, what are my priorities and what do we need to shift elsewhere? Because that disconnect between, how things are really working and what it really takes. For example, we were working on stuff and I had Ronnie's phenomenal, but it came back and say, "Ronnie, I need you to really figure out how much time does it take you for each 1 minute of edited video. Get me an average, because when we are going to assign things for Ronnie to do, if we need to end up with 30 minutes of edited video, we need to know how long that's really going to take Ronnie, because I can't give him, 6 hours worth of work and we only allocate 3 hours and then we're all upset because it's not done."
Facts. Good stuff. All right. 2 quick things. One, let the listeners know that you're in the Virgin Islands.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. I moved here about 11 years ago as part of a total life do-over. This is home now, but I work with people all over. Doesn't matter the time zone. I am not bilingual, so unfortunately, you got to speak English because I failed to learn another language. That's mine.
No worries.
But I help people all over in different sizes and situations. I'm here to help.
And then the next thing was pack faith first and suitcase second.
That is my number 1 bestseller that was released last year. And that talks about what moved me here. God moved me here. It's quite a story. People kept asking. And so at the end of the first 10 years, I wrote that, and it goes through what got us here. And then a variety of different miracles. I will call them modern day miracles that have happened to me while we've been here. And if you want to read something that is inspiring and has, good news, there's only one scripture in it. So it's not, that way, but I have had wonderful feedback from it. And of course, I sent you a copy of it. So we'll put you on the spot and see what you thought in reading it. How'd you feel when you were reading through that?
I got it yesterday, and I texted you. I think I messaged you that I did get the book yesterday, and I haven't divulged into it yet, but I had a lot going on, and I was prepping for us to talk today because I already knew that I was going to take up a lot of your time. I'm not. I just know, but I will give feedback after.
We did a lot of business stuff today, but think about the book is going to enrich you on a personal level. So think about the value today that I've given you for business. Mm-hmm. Now think about the value that the book can do to enrich you on a personal. That's kind of the difference.
Fantastic. And then, if people want to reach out to you, where can they find you? Instagram, Twitter, or your connections?
All of those things are going to be down in the show notes that you can reach out to me. And if you do a search, Amy Rose Herrick, AMYROSE Herrick, HERRICK, you cannot help but find me on Google searches. And I have a YouTube channel that I've got some videos and different things up. So there's a lot of resources out there, and you are free to email me, call me, and I will respond.
You want to give your email or your number?
Oh, this is so easy. Amy@amyroseherrick.com. Could it get any duller?
No, you need to get right to the point, and that's right to the point, Amy.
Well, and some of you, if you're using your name, this is just a little last hint here. Go out and get the domain for your own name. You don't want anybody else using it. You should have it.
Did you want to give your direct contact in terms of your phone number?
If they just send me the email, amy@amyroseherrick.com, and I will reach out to you, or I'll send you a booking link to get on my calendar. Or if you heard something and said, hey, have you got a resource for XYZ, shoot me a note, because I'm a wealth of information.
Okay. Anything else you want to cover in this short time? I know you got to go, Amy. Anything else you want to say?
Oh, I would say that it's been delightful, and by all means, continue following and listening to his podcast. Folks, he's working hard behind the scenes to bring you some high-quality stuff to build you up. So partner with him. Click those like buttons, subscribe, share it, so that other people can benefit from the good hard work that Keanu's doing.
Thank you so much, Amy, and I do appreciate that. I hope everything is well with you and you continue to be successful in empowering other entrepreneurs.
So do I. Well, you be blessed until our paths cross again, and I am hoping it will be soon.
Yes, it will. Thank you for rambling with us.
All right. Have a good night.
You too. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to today's Ramble. Please like, share, and subscribe for new episodes of the iRamble podcast. Also, check out iRamble.com for more guest content.